What's up, guys and gals, and welcome to Veve Vibes, where I love talking all things Veve NFTs, speculation, and of course the market. So, interesting stuff. There's been quite a few changes recently. First off, congratulations to anyone. I actually got it pulled up here on my phone. Congratulations to anyone that actually ended up getting this Ron English serial killer's airdrop, which is basically the golden Yucky charmer. I'm not exactly sure who these went to. I think it might have went to all the people that didn't get the golden bunny last time, like people that still had the full sets but they didn't get the golden bunnies. Congratulations to all the people that did get that. I'm still not 100% sure who actually got those drops for the most part, but if you did get it, let me know down in the comments below. That's incredibly awesome. My recommendation, to be honest, if it's going to follow suit anything like the golden bunny, I would find a way to sell it immediately, as fast as you can. That's just my, not financial advice. This is just my personal opinion based on what kind of happened last time. I find a way to sell it immediately because that thing was basically dropping. It started, I think, around $4,000, and it just started dropping $1,000 pretty much every other day since it was released at that point. But yeah, another thing too is that now Ecomi.wiki now costs basically €10 or whatever the equivalent is in your country a month. So no longer can you look at the graphs. You are able to look at a lot of other different things like on the market here. So let's see if we can actually open this up really quick. I got a bunch of tabs open, and something I did notice is, like, if you do have a bunch of tabs of Ecomi.wiki running at once, it will lag your computer for the most part. So if you're trying to check out the market, the premium data is what I'm using. So I'm paying for this because honestly, I do think it's worthwhile. I do think if you are on a platform that is making you hundreds, if not thousands of gems a month, and you're not willing to pay roughly about 30 cents a day, then I don't know what to tell you, but like, I really think that the information is worth it, at least on Ecomi.wiki. You are able to look at some tables, but it's more reflective of like the actual box price itself of the item and a few other things. So you get some very limited information. I am signed up for like the free Twitter alerts, which I believe is called Alice and Veve. On Twitter, it basically notifies you if there's any low mint collectibles that show up like in the bottom 20% or so of like the overall ones that were minted, and smart account valuation. So you can like put up your vault on the Ecomi.wiki like website, and it'll kind of give you like a floor price evaluation of how much your vault is worth. Because the Veve app, when it gives you like an evaluation of how much your vault is worth, it's basically of the box price, not how much it's actually worth on the market, which I think is a bit silly. So finally, we're going to take a quick look at the biggest gainers that has happened over the last 24 hours. And by far and away, it has been, has it updated? Yeah, it's actually top of the hour right now. So before, it was Supergirl, and she's still up there. Last that we saw, so she's not a top gainer anymore. Okay, she's still in the top. She's definitely retraced. So prior, she went from basically 103 listings all the way down to 72, and she pumped all the way up to 1,300 gems. She was at 790. She pumped all the way up to 1,300, and as you can see now, literally as I'm recording this, it's the top of the hour, 10 o'clock my time in the morning. It seems like people are already selling off, taking their profits. I already kind of called this. It still says 1,300, but here it says it's at 1070 for the most part. Superman has pumped a ton. I do know quite a few content creators on Twitter were saying basically this is undervalued. I know Cody Thrived made a video saying this is also undervalued. I think people kind of saw this coming. It's a gorgeous looking NFT. A lot of people think it's probably like one of the top 5 best looking NFTs that's on the platform currently. And as you can tell, this trend line has been doing nothing but going up and up and up and up. No surprise there. Ultraman, I think this one took quite a few people by surprise. I don't know if it's just because people think the localization for Chinese or Mandarin is going to be coming in here in the near future for the most part. But yeah, Ultraman's pumped really, really well over the last few days. And I think it's just, it's an FA, it's a season 1 thing. And Ultraman has been around for like 50 years or so. So it's a pretty popular like superhero, and I think it's maybe, and as far as I know, basically what I've heard from Randy Chavez, this isn't like the original Ultraman. It's like Ultraman's son who like took up the suit and all that stuff. So like eventually when they do come out with like the original Ultraman, I think that could do very well. But just the fact that this is like the FA Ultraman is a pretty big deal. And I think Ultraman isn't as popular, maybe like in the primarily English speaking countries for the most part, but he's been pumping really well. Maybe people are just buying this up now while they can, and when eventually the kind of like Southeast Asian market is introduced, Ultraman would do really nice. Harley Quinn, no surprise there. The Zombie Hunter Spider-Man, I remember recommending this like 2 weeks ago to a lot of you guys. This, like, it was this Catwoman, as well as like Batgirl FAs. I'm like, dude, some of these FAs are really inexpensive. I remember recommending this. I remember when this FA was like 69 gems on the market, like 10 days ago or so, like either early January, late December. I knew this was gonna pump eventually. I didn't see the overall like Marvel and like FA pump just kind of happening in general, but I do know, I'm like, hey, it's a Spider-Man and it's an FA, like, and it doesn't have that many. It has quite a few editions. It's got almost 20,000, but it's not like it has 30,000 or anything like that. And of course it has I was gonna say Captain Marvel, but no, it has Doctor Strange's cape on it, which is a pretty big deal. That has made an appearance in the recent movie. In my opinion, I think the two biggest winners that's happened, and people have actually been telling me about Wonder Woman as well, but I remember talking about Ben Reilly when he was at 170 gems way back here, right there. That is literally when I bought 2 of them, and I kind of wish I bought 10 instead of just 2. I ended up selling one when he peaked at like 280, so right around here. I think it was like 280, 300. That's when I sold my first one just to kind of take some profits, and I reinvested into something else. And then, of course, there's the secondary pump, and it's just... This is just kind of unusual behavior for the typical market because usually you see things go up, roughly 20 or 30%, and then things would just kind of sell off. People are just taking profits and going from there. But when you're just seeing these multiple pumps, right? Pumps, flat plateaus, pumps, plateaus, pumps, plateaus. And I think right now, like just because the Veve hasn't really had a heavily significant drop in the last 3 weeks or so. People are bored. People have been consolidating their NFTs for gems. People have been selling off a lot of their decon stuff for basically all of their non-DC and Marvel NFTs for this kind of stuff. But yeah, I do think Ben Reilly, Ben Reilly's basically tripled in price, the uncommon, over the last like week or so. Wonder Woman. People have been telling me about Wonder Woman for the last like week and a half too, about my videos. I wouldn't say I necessarily slept on her, but you can just see, like, I wasn't necessarily recommending her because she was just already pumping. She got up to like 500, and I'm like, she's already pumping. That's it. Okay, she sells off a bit. So this is kind of what I'm talking about, where it's like pump, plateau, pump, plateau, pump, plateau, and you just don't know when it's actually going to stop. And at any point now, Veve did say over the next like month or so that they could announce some big IPs. Over the next month and a half or so. So it could be Jurassic Park, Dragon Ball Z, Ninja Turtles. Unlikely that it's going to be Pokemon, but there's so much speculation what the new IP could be for the most part. So yeah, Wonder Woman all the way up to almost 800 gems at this point. That is pretty crazy. Harley Quinn, Ito, part of that. Okay, we had a quick crash, but regardless, we're going to keep moving on. Biggest losers. I meant to look at the biggest losers here as well. Biggest losers, 90% of these are just basically NFTs that are already heavily pumped, and they're just retracing, or I should say, selling off now at this point. So the secret rare Captain America, he went all the way up to what looks like almost $7,000, and right now he's basically just, people are just taking profits and selling off at this point. So yeah, he pushed almost $7,000. Same thing with Big Barda. Looks like she was pushing probably about 1,300 gems, selling off. People are just likely just consolidating a lot of their decon items to actually afford DC and Marvel at this point. So you can just see here, decon, poster. Amanda Connor, Batman, looks like it's just retracing a bit because it got heavily pumped as well. So interesting. Ultraman Secret Rare has kind of gone down a bit. Yeah, so I think most of these, especially when it comes to like DC and Marvel, like a lot of these are just correcting themselves. They got pumped so much, people are just taking profits and selling them off at this point, especially when, and that's the thing, it's like you just don't know when this is going to start happening, right? So we're looking at the Carmine Robin on the market. We see here where it's like there's a plump and kind of a plateau. It did dip a bit, a pump, another plateau, but this is starting to dip pretty hard at this point comparatively to where it was at 3,600. Now it's all the way down to basically 25. So, and this is the part that I won't say necessarily scares me, but it's hard for me to recommend some of these ones where you just don't know where it's going to stop. Like, I just don't like chasing pumps. That's just me personally, but for some reason, a lot of other people do, and that's why they continue to pump and plateau. Another thing that is sometimes all it takes is one tweet, like Jeremy Padawar, I think, like tweeted about the literally the number 100 Todd, like he has the number 100 mint of the 100 Todd that started pumping again. So I do think there is a lot of influence coming from content creators as well as just big name people on Twitter that do influence these prices for the most part. So there is that. I wanted to look at I was going to look at comics really quick, but this video is already running pretty long. We'll take a look at comics really quick, actually. We might as well. I do want to make a couple points, at least with the comics, because the most recent interview Randy Chavez had was with Mr. Pags, who is a very big time low mint collector of comics, especially. But I do think he owns quite a few of other like low mint, like kind of like your typical collectibles for NFTs as well. So as we're scrolling down here, there was two comics that he did talk about quite a bit, which was Journey into Mystery as well as the Tales of Suspense. And to no surprise, basically both of these pumped quite a bit since the stream that happened, I believe like 12 hours ago at this point, maybe a little bit longer than that. Journey into Mystery Secret Rare pumped. Tales of Suspense pumped. Journey into Mystery Rare went up. Tales of Suspense Uncommon went up. Journey into Mystery went up. Tales of Suspense Ultra Rare went up. So it's like of these like top 8 or 9 that have pumped, about 6 of them are either Journey into Mystery or Tales of Suspense. So, which is why I think it's very important that you kind of keep your ear to the ground and you do watch a lot of these content creators like Randy Chavez, Cody Thrive, any other people that kind of do pretty consistent like streams or like market predictions and stuff like that. Because yeah, as you can see, less than 12 hours ago, Journey into Mystery was at 3.4. Now it's all the way up to 4.7. Literally just because of that interview. And Mr. Pag seemed to be really kind of pushing that point that Tales of Suspense and Journey into Mystery are pretty underpriced. I don't remember him explicitly mentioning secret rares, but just in general, I mean, you could see the rares and the uncommons like kind of just going up across the board for the most part. I think just because those are obviously more affordable than the secret rare. So I do think it's important if you guys are try to do a lot of flipping, or if you are trying to kind of keep your ear to the ground on like what things are going to pop next, I do highly suggest just kind of watching content creators, figuring out what people are saying, hanging out in the market chat Discord on Veve as well. I do think that those are all great sources. All right, now on to some of the recommendations that I have. I actually forgot to do this. So again, I'm not a huge fan of chasing pumps. I do think there are some NFTs that you should like kind of keep an eye out for. I'm not saying you should just buy these right now and these are going to give you your highest return on investment right now. But like I said, I don't like chasing pumps. I like to try and buy things before they happen or what people might look at next. Randy Chavez has been talking about this one quite a bit, which is just the Holiday Groot. I do think the common as well as the uncommon are very undervalued. I do think there's a lot of hesitation because one, there is a ton of mints of these. I mean, the common one has 30,000 mints and the uncommon has 20,000 mints. But And I think the other hesitation too is that they are holiday themed. So some people aren't a huge fan of that, but if they do allow people to remove some of the festive stuff, people might be more into it. Who knows? But like both of these are still under box price. As far as I remember, I do remember these being like 50 gems each, and like the uncommon is still 47 and the common is still 35. So these are both like very undervalued. And my personal opinion, if I were to stack one of these, I would say it's the uncommon group because this, as far as I know, this is the only animated uncommon NFT that's on the platform right now. There are some, obviously the secret rares, there's quite a few secret rare as well as ultra rare animated ones. I'm not sure if there's any rare animated ones. Let me know down in the comments below if I did kind of like overlook one of those, but I do think there is some rare animated ones. But I think as far as I know, the Holiday Groot Uncommon Festival, and even though it's just the lights lighting up, it's still technically animated. So this is the only animated uncommon NFT that I know of that is on Veve right now. So that is my kind of first recommendation for just things to kind of keep an eye out for if you guys are going to stack them. And that's kind of another thing is that a lot of people, Dead of the Dead, might have put Day of the Dead, Day of the Dead. Which is another thing is that I think the market is starting to slowly shift between diversifying and now stacking, which is why you might have some people that are like, all right, I have 2,000 gems. I can either buy 4 of these NFTs that cost 500 and like kind of make an influence there, or I can buy, 100 of these NFTs that cost 20 and I'm going to stack these. And that's why some of these are increasing in price. Of course, that's a very small analysis. Like instead of 2,000 gems, it could be 20,000 gems and people are just stacking these NFTs that cost 1,500 gems, which is why they're skyrocketing so much. Another one I would keep an eye out for, and these are actually already pumping. When I was looking at these earlier, these were, I think all 3 of these were in the red except for this one. Which is, I mean, just the fact that the Day of the Dead child with the bow, I'm not sure why this is still undervalued because this has 666,000 mints. The uncommon doesn't have much more. It's only 7,666. But like just the fact that the uncommon has actually touched peaks of 115 as well as 140 at some point. The supply is going down quite a bit. I mean, it's at 171 right now. And about 2 weeks ago, it was 228. Yeah. So the supply is going down quite a bit. The price is going up. I do think this is one that you could potentially stack, which is the stamps. And the stamps is probably one of the most collectible kind of like communities that currently exist in like real life. Common ones, I'm not too sure on. I mean, there's still more commons than there is the uncommons. I do think you could probably stack either one of these and do pretty well for the most part. I mean, the common has gone up to 36 as well as 157. So common has had higher peaks. There's slightly more listings than the uncommon, but again, there was listings up to 247. So I do think don't sleep on the Day of the Dead stamps. These ones were the first ones that were minted. They're not FAs because I do believe the U.S. Postal Service has had like NFTs that they posted before, but they are the first ones that are on Veve, and they are the Day of the Dead stamps as well. So moving on, here is the polar bear globes. I would specifically recommend the rares because I'm surprised that basically the commons have actually caught up to the price of the rares. Let me refresh the price because I do think these have, like I said, that the market has updated. All right, so the rares and the commons are identical priced. That, I wouldn't say that does make sense, but at the same time, when people do think of Coca-Cola and like wintertime and Christmas, they do think of like the polar bear. If we're looking at the price per, like the prices of them right now, these are both plateauing pretty hard. So like I think you can't go wrong with the commons, but I do think like if you put more value on rarity than maybe like how iconic is the piece itself. The rare did actually see a little bit of a pump recently, but just the fact that the common and the rare are the exact same price, the rare has half the amount of mints that the common has. Like, I'm very surprised. Plus, I would say that the rare snow globe is probably one of the more unique looking ones because it does have the Coca-Cola bottles as well as the neon sign that I believe lights up, but I'm not sure if it's like technically animated. Like, it does have the snow, but I'm not sure if the light like lights up and like turns on and off or something like that. I don't own one of the rares, but this is one I actually might invest in as I get more gems. But the polar bear snow globe, it's extremely iconic. I mean, it's the polar bear. That's it. You could even stack probably the uncommons too. I will say it's probably it's probably the least underwhelming NFT just because it's just 4 bottles stacked up against each other with the snow and stuff. But yeah, I mean, the price of these have actually been going up quite a bit, and they are very undervalued. So I mean, you could basically buy twice as many uncommons as you want the commons or the rares right now, so it's kind of up to you. But just kind of keep an eye on the snow globes because although they are festive theme, like I do think a majority of Coca-Cola's investing dollars and just kind of like their marketing and their big push is during kind of Christmas time. So now could be a pretty good time to pick one up, at least if you're looking for like a long-term hold. Another one I do think, in my honest opinion, and it's already pumped quite a bit, but it's also retraced like quite a bit now, is Starfire. I do think Starfire is probably going to be the next one to do possibly a secondary pump really hard. There's literally only 1,000 editions. I'm actually going to move my camera so you guys can see. There's literally only 1,000 editions of this, and this thing is still under is basically at 1,500, basically 1.6 right now. Let me actually refresh this because again, the market literally refreshed as I was doing this video. Starfire. Sometimes it kind of gets a bit finicky. You have to like go back and type it in one word at a time or one letter at a time. So yeah, it's at 1,600 right now. The fact that there's 1,000 mitts, it's under $2,000. It's an FA. She's part of the Teen Titans as well as a few other groups as well. I do think she's more popular than Big Barda, and Big Barda I think is kind of sitting around the similar price. Last we checked, I think she was at 1,200. I think this is infinitely more recognizable than Big Barda. She is an FA. She's part of the Teen Titans as well as some other groups as well. So I do think this one, she already pumped, but just the fact that she's retraced, she has seen peaks up to 1,800 at certain points. I mean, she went up to $2,000 not too long ago, but now she's back down. I do think we could see a secondary big pump with her in the near future, especially since we do have Superman skyrocketing right now, as well as some other NFTs that are kind of fit in like the similar realm. As like Starfire, where it's kind of like a 101, they complete their own set, they're an FA, pretty low mints for the most part. I do think Starfire could be the next one to take off, but again, not financial advice. If you guys like the NFT, like, go for it. This might be one I could pick up. I just see some other investments that could be better, like FA Joker, FA Harley, as they retrace a bit. I think right now people are like in a weird holding pattern between, do we want to basically wait for a big IP announcement, everything starts dropping down again, and that's the time to buy, or it's like, could it be another 3 weeks before Veve makes another big IP announcement and things are just going to keep continuing to pump, or money's just going to keep getting moved around, and I want to try and leverage that, right? And of course, last but not least, I've been saying this for I think like the last like 2 or 3 videos. Even though they did see quite a bit of movement, the Mickeys are still undervalued, in my honest opinion. These have been consolidating for quite some time. They have seen a little bit of a bump, but just the fact that the common is still under 450 and the uncommon is under 550, that is still crazy to me. Altogether now, the ultra rare is under 4,500 for the most part. But let me redo this. Of course, there's a huge siren and stuff going on. Hold on. So the price of these have actually gone down a little bit more since we last saw. And I do think some hesitation here is because there are a lot of mints. The common has almost 20,000. The uncommon has 14,000 for the most part. So the mints are relatively high, but again, it's a first appearance, not a first appearance, but it's a first edition Mickey. This Mickey will have its own series. If you guys pay attention to the actual like Mickey Mouse like series, like on like the what do you call it, like the brand page or like the tab or whatever, it's going to be a series. So there's going to be more Mickeys released. There could be like a Fantasia Mickey. There could be some other Mickeys that are released in the near future. And as those get released, these original ones that were part of the first series or the first set, let's say, they're just going to keep going up in price. So I do think Mickeys at some point are going to see an aggressive pump in the near future. Not entirely sure when, but I think right now these are being heavily slept on. I do think it's like in the back of everyone's head, but I do think at some point these could just see a significant pump. But I do think the main hesitation is just the sheer mint numbers that it has are pretty high. It can't be market manipulated as easily, so we'll kind of see how that plays out. But I do think the altogether now a jaunty jig and a happy whistle Mickey are undervalued right now. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If there's any NFTs I overlooked, let me know down in the comments below. I think I covered most of them for the most part, and I will be doing these Ecomi.wiki coverages because now that Ecomi.wiki does cost money, I know some people kind of appreciate the fact that I do cover the market, and now not everyone can or wants to afford the kind of like the premium listing stuff. So I'm going to keep doing that. And let me know down in the comments below too. I've been kind of holding off the last couple of weeks doing Wen Wednesdays because those are like pretty much projects that do take me a lot of time. But if you guys have not checked out like my Wen Wednesday videos, please let me know down in the comments below if you guys want me to kind of continue that. I've had a lot of fun doing them, but they do take up a ton of time, and I want to make sure I'm not wasting your guys' time or mine doing those in the near future, or like what kind of IP you guys want me to cover next. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys take care, and I'll catch you on the flip side.